The Rebel Capitalist Show.
You started talking to me about what you think an ideal system would look like. And it wasn't necessarily this big government communism. It was kind of an interesting concept, like a hybrid with private property. And I don't know, socialism is the right word, but basically where the means of production are actually owned by the employees themselves. But again, there's still that component of private property. Can you go ahead and expand on that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. But first, I want to nod my understanding and sympathy for people who associate socialism and communism with big, powerful governments making massive interventions in the economy and all of that. In other words, there's a good reason why a lot of people think about it that way. And I thought it might be useful to get into this by talking about why they see that way. The strategy that most socialists, starting in the middle of the 19th century, came to focus on was the idea, well, we, the working people, the employees of the society, we are the vast majority. And therefore, since our political system gives everybody or nearly everybody the right to vote, well, that's how we're going to do it. We're going to mobilize and organize the majority working people to vote, because they're the majority, for a government. And if we can capture the government for working people, we can then use that achievement to make the society different and better. You had socialists capture governments. You know, the German Socialist Party was the second political party in Germany already by the end of the 19th century. It was very, very big and powerful. And it's the same Socialist Party in Germany today. In any case, they took over the government and they started to try to do what they had figured they would do. But the process stalled. It stalled in part because it turned out they weren't so clear what comes next. They had the government. Think of it this way. We've captured the government. Now what do we do?
Yeah.
And they weren't so clear. And a lot of them were confused. And a lot of more of them became very comfortable with all of that power that the government's control gave them. And to make, again, the long story short, in Russia, in China, in Cuba, in North Korea, and so on, socialists were able to capture the government either by revolution or by election, and they made the government controlling things begin to be what socialism was. In other words, they forgot the idea of a further change and became focused on the government because that's what they control.
Right.
Transitions from capitalism to socialism, like from every other system like slavery or feudalism to capitalism, they don't all happen at once. There are lots of experiments, how to make change. It's trial and error, like so many things in life that change. And so Russia, China, these are the early experiments. They achieved some things and they really messed up other things. And so later socialists, for example, me, we look at all of this and we say, we've got to learn from the early experiments. What did they do that was right and valuable that we have to build on? And where did they mess up? And we have to make very sure that doesn't happen again. Our answer is you've got to put real economic power in the mass of people at the base of society. You can't organize the enterprises where people do the work 5 days a week, 9 to 5, where we all go to work. The factory, the office, the store, whatever the place is, you've got to say that that's going to be in the hands of the people. Otherwise, you have no control on government. It will dominate in all the ways that Americans and others now see we don't want. And I don't want it either. So my solution is we've got to find why we even ever set it up like that. Why do we have a government with so much power concentrated in relatively few hands at the tippity top? And I have an answer to that question.
Yeah.
And the answer is that's how we organize our capitalist enterprises. We allow a very small number of people, the owner of the enterprise, or the president, or in a corporation, which is how most business gets done in capitalism these days, a board of directors, a very small group of people, usually 15 to 20, more or less, elected by the major shareholders, another group of 10 or 20 people. They get together and they make all the decisions. And the vast majority of us, who are called employees, we have to do what this small, unaccountable group of people at the top tell us to do. We have no freedom about it. We don't vote for them. We have no power over them. They have the ultimate power, because if they don't like us, we're gone. We're toast. We're fired. We've lost our income. We've plunged our family into all of the chaos that comes from a lost job, et cetera, et cetera. We've organized our businesses that way, and we don't need to, and we should never have. I mean, I am a Democrat with a small d. I believe in people having authority. I would have been right up there with getting rid of the kings and queens. We should never have had that system either. A few people at the top, we're all the subjects. I mean, I'm proud of the American Revolution because we said to King George III, that's it. We're not playing this game. And we didn't revolt from England and set up a king here. Very clear. No. We don't want that. Well, I don't want kings either. And we have kings, only we call them something else, CEOs. They're the people who sit at the top of the corporate hierarchy and tell us all what to do. If we change that, and this is what socialism in the 21st century means, if we change that, if we make the workplace democratic with a little d, where the decisions, what to produce, how to produce, where to produce, and what to do with the output we all together help to produce, if that's run by a majority, if we have debates and disagreements, and then we vote, and the majority rules, I think we'll all have a stake in business, making it go better. And I think we will have put the power at the base of society, because the government can't do anything if it doesn't get the revenue from the enterprises. That's the way it's done now. We tax either business or workers, personal income tax, corporate income tax. Only now it's going to be the people who pay both of those. And I think that's a way to make sure we don't do the bad things that these early experiments in socialism fell into. Let me mention, to help people think a little bit about it, would we have voted starting in the 1970s in the system I'm describing? Would we have voted to close the factories of America in Cincinnati and Cleveland and Detroit and move everything to China? No way on earth would that have happened. The workers wouldn't have voted to destroy their own livelihood. They wouldn't have voted to empty the factories, who then didn't pay taxes to the town, which therefore couldn't afford to run the schools. We would never have done these things. We'd have a completely different capitalist system in this country, because we would have given the mass of people what our society says it believes in, democracy.
Yeah, how would it be?
You want the economy to work for the people, you got to put the people in charge.
Why are businesses not started with that structure today?
They are. That's the other interesting thing. I often am asked this question, and I want to answer. Both in the United States and outside the United States, there are a variety of words to describe what people have been doing. What I'm proposing is not a new idea. I don't claim that. I don't want anyone to think I came up with this. Not at all. This is old stuff. And the idea is worker cooperative. That's what it's called here in the United States. We have worker cooperatives all over the United States. We have something called the United States Federation of Worker Co-ops. They have a website. You can go there. You can learn all about it. Let me give you examples of where it's gone further than the United States. In the country of Spain is probably the single most successful worker co-op. And let me tell you very briefly the story. It began in 1956 with a Roman Catholic priest named Father Arizmendi, who lived in a town in the north of Spain in the foothills of the Pyrenees Mountains, very poor area. And he was talking to his parish, and he said, look, we all here suffer from enormous unemployment. It's a poor area. And if we wait for some businessman or woman to come into this area and give us jobs, we're all going to die of old age. So everybody in the church laughed. Everybody understood the humor. And then he did something that surprised them. He said, let's not wait. Let's set up a business ourselves. We'll be our own employer. And he did this with 6 workers. Okay, that's 1956. Now let's go fast forward to 2021, right now. Mondragon is a town in which this happened. So it's called the Mondragon Cooperative Corporation. You can look it up and learn much more about it than I have time to tell you. It is the 7th largest corporation in all of Spain. It is a family of about 250 worker co-ops, some in agriculture, some in industry, some in services. Each of the enterprises is run by the workers there, democratic, 1 vote. They have been spectacularly successful. The number of people working for the Mondragon Corporation today is over 100,000 workers from 6 in 1956. That's a growth rate most capitalist enterprises would envy in terms of success over time. During that time, these worker co-ops with this democratic way of running had to compete with capitalist enterprises, you know, a typical enterprise with a boss and workers, and all of that. And they won those competitions. That's why they grew. They have their own university, and I've been there. The Mondragon University teaches courses on how to start a co-op, how to finance a co-op, how to grow a co-op, how to deal with problems. You know, just like a business school deals with capitalist enterprise problems, they deal with worker co-op enterprise problems. And they have done really well.
What are the wages compared? Have you done any research on that? What are the wages with the co-ops compared to the capitalist organizations in the same area?
Yeah, and in case people want to follow this up, I rely on the research of a professor at the Leeds School of Business in Great Britain. Leeds University is an old established university in Britain, and they have a very famous business school. And at that business school is a professor. Her name is Virginia, or she's of French origin, so they say it Virginie Perotin. P is in P, I'll spell it in case you want to look it up. P is in Peter, E-R-O-T-I-N, Perotin. Basically, she comes up with the following. In most ways, worker co-ops last longer, are more profitable, and are more efficient. And when she tries to explain, how do you explain your findings from your research? She basically comes up with something I find very American. She says, look, if all the workers in a business have skin in the game, if they're all going to do well or not, depending on how well that business does, and they're really involved in the decisions and the debates about what to do, they're not going to behave the way workers normally do. If on their way home at the end on Tuesday, they notice that the light in the bathroom is still on, but no one's going to be in there until tomorrow, they stop, they open the door and they flick the switch so that they don't waste the electricity. If they come up with a better way of doing things, they share it with everybody else because it makes them feel appreciated as everybody notices, wow, this is going to make us more efficient. We're going to save on this input, or we're going to get more or better output. She says the whole feeling, she says, the argument is as old as the argument for democracy. We got rid of kings because we didn't want that. we felt we could govern ourselves. That's very deep in the American mentality. And really all I'm saying is we ought to put that to work kind of where our mouth is, in the business. And here's what a prediction. I don't make predictions often. In the 21st century, what I've just roughly described, that's going to be what socialism comes to mean to people, not the 19th and 20th century. That was the early experiment. They tried to go the route of big government. They found it partly did good things, but it also did bad things. And their focus now is on changing the foundation of society, bringing real democracy to the average person's participation in the workplace, and the confidence that that will be able to answer the old question, can we do better than capitalism, with a resounding, yep.